From time immemorial, the sovereign nations have inhabited, protected, and preserved the land that is so-called Canada. We acknowledge this fact. The land we serve is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, and the Chippewa. Real World's offices are in Toronto, which is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Real World panel. We are on creating Indigenous comedies in Canada. I'm Bronwyn Szabo. I'm a filmmaker. I'm so excited to be here, and I get to talk to these incredible Indigenous filmmakers. So I'll introduce you to them. We have Cody Lightning, filmmaker and actor. Cody Lightning is a Cree actor and filmmaker from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He was a young Artist Award nominee in 1999 for Best Performance in a Feature Film, supporting young actor for Smoke Signals in 1998, and won the American Indian Film Festival Award for Best Actor in 2007 for Four Sheets to the Wind. In 2023, he wrote, directed, and starred in his directorial debut film, Hey Victor, a mockumentary in which a fictionalized version of himself struggles to reestablish his faded career as an actor by creating his own sequel to Smoke Signals. In 2024, he received 2 Canadian Screen Award nominations for his work on the film, for Best Lead Performance in a Comedy Film and Best Original Screenplay at the 12th Canadian Screen Awards. Bravo, Cody.
Thank you. Wow, what an intro.
Thank you. And next we have Trevor Saloway. Trevor Saloway Sinakson is a Blackfoot filmmaker from Siksika Nation. He is the writer, director, showrunner for Tales from the Res, a horror comedy anthology series available on APT and Lumi. He is the founder and leader of the Nappy Collective, a grassroots filmmaking society based out of Siksika Nation. Welcome, Trevor. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have Jessie Anthony, producer, writer, director, DGC. Writer, director, producer Jessie Anthony is a proud Haudenosaunee woman from the Onondaga Nation Beaver Clan, born and raised in the Six Nations of the Grand River Territory in Ontario, Canada. Jessie graduated from the Indigenous Independent Filmmaking Program with a Bachelor of Motion Picture Arts from Capilano University. Jessie is a Telefilm Talent to Watch winner for her first feature film titled Brother, I Cry, which won the 2020 BC Emerging Filmmakers Award at the Vancouver International Film Festival, the Audience Choice Award in the 2020 Imaginative Film Festival, Best Screenwriting Award at the 2021 Vancouver International Women's Film Festival, and Best Screenwriting and Best Direction in a Motion Picture at the 2021 Leo Awards. Jessie is also the producer of the Canadian Screen Award nominated Indigenous queer series Querencia, which won the Imaginative Pitch Competition, gaining a broadcast deal with APTN, the Bell Fund, and Telefilm Talent to Watch. Jessie is currently in development with a television slate supported by CMF, Amazon, ISO, Creative BC, and Bell Media. Jessie recently wrapped up a writer's room for a brand new Indigenous TV comedy series titled Acting Good with CTV, and a director's mentorship on The Handmaid's Tale with Emmy Award-winning cinematographer and director Dana Gonzalez. So hurry up and get some talent, Jessie.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, how's everyone feeling? Are we all excited to be here? I'm excited to meet you. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, my very first question, I'm actually going to steal it from the Secret Life of Canada podcast, one of my favorite podcasts. So they posed this question recently, and this is open to everyone, please. So there's a common belief that Indigenous people have great senses of humor because they have to as a survival strategy from colonialism. But do you think that that is giving a little bit too much credit to colonialism? No wrong answers. But how much do you think that's true? And how much do you think it comes from Indigenous cultures always having been oral storytelling kind of performance cultures? Because Indigenous people were developing comedic timing and delivery from an early age. Does anyone have any personal perspective on that? Okay, I think Cody does. Cody?
Are we allowed to swear? I just need to know about profanity. Because the first thing on in my head through interviews, public speaking is don't cuss, don't cuss, don't cuss. But are we allowed to swear here?
Yes.
Okay. Holy fuck. We've been funny since the fucking beginning of goddamn time. Enough's enough. This, you go to any ceremony, you go to any powwow, any night lodge, anything, and it's children talking rank, and there's elders talking rank, and they're laughing, and that's what it is. The craziest shit I've heard in my life. And I worked with kids for 6 years. I've worked with kids for years, like for probably about 15 plus. But for the last 6 years, I've been a youth worker. The craziest shit I hear is from these kids, and the gnarly stuff that comes out of their mouth. It's innate in us. It's not no colonialism shit. I'm sorry. It's not colonialism at all. That's who we are. So like there you could be at a funeral and people are laughing and cracking jokes. For instance, one of my best friends, Eric Pipestem, world-renowned hoop dancer, all that stuff. His younger brother, Bishop, my good friend Bishop, he passed away. We were at his funeral, right? We're at his funeral. And as he's being lowered into the ground, people are crying. We're like, oh, God, dude, Bishop's gone, man. And the first thing, Eric turns around, he looks at me and he goes, well, he's China's problem now. And I'm like, oh, my God, dude. You don't learn that. You don't learn that. That's who we are. So, I mean, it might be for some, might not be for others, and that's fine. But that's in us. That's not colonial. I'll mute the mic now.
No, I absolutely love that. That's completely, yeah, it can't be taught, I don't think. Like, you're born with it. It's in your blood. I'll take the question to Jessie or Trevor. Chime in.
Go ahead, Trevor. You had your mic up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like just looking at Blackfoot stories, like Napi stories, he's our trickster. A lot of the stories that I heard growing up, they were very profane, very violent, very, sexual or rated R. And I think, some of the Napi stories belong on like HBO, but I think you also hear these other versions of Napi stories that were like Christianized, that there's this PG version of Napi. That that's in kids' books, that's told at schools, that's told at these culture kind of sensitivity trainings. And so I think our image and who we are has been kind of created into this like noble Indian that was like portrayed for so long. And I think some of the films that I saw in the 90s that were attempting to tell Indigenous stories were like this beads and feathers Indian, this noble Indian. And I think that actually does, creating this unrealistic role model for our youth, I think does more damage than it does good. Because I think after a while, when you see the bar is too high, that in the circumstances you're living in, you don't have both parents, maybe you don't have clean drinking water. Just like the circumstances you live in, you can't always reach like the perfect role model, influencer type stuff that we see. And so I think it's always been kind of my goal is to create contemporary, authentic representation of who we are in film. And sometimes that's a good and bad. We're allowed to have the full human experience. And you don't have to look far. You look back at our Napi stories, like Napi was somebody who was outrageous, and I think there's a little bit of Napi in all of us.
Trevor, I apologize. I think I earlier pronounced nappy, so it's Napi. Thank you very much. What was I? Anyway, Jessie, sorry. Well, I'll get right back to you, Jessie. Yeah, Trevor, what you were saying, I think that's a very brilliant trick of colonialism, I guess, is to present images that's like giving children an impossible standard to adhere to. So it's like setting them up to fail, right? As a character on screen. So yeah, I really admire what you said. Jessie?
Yeah, I mean, when Sky Woman fell from the sky, she was laughing though. I'm kidding. No, so for me, as a Haudenosaunee person, it's laughter and being funny and humor it's embedded in our medicine societies. It is something that, from time immemorial we've had, and so laughter brings medicine. It was right in our medicine society. So I think that I agree. Like it's just this is who we are, and I think it's what has made us push through colonialism, and it has given us power to continue to carry that medicine forward and onto our next generation. So I agree with everything said here. Plus, it's a bundle, and I think we were funny first.
I think just add on, I totally forgot something that, like, I think these stories had to be outrageous or else you would forget them. Like when you're talking about stories passed on generation to generation, if there's nothing crazy or twist or whatever that happened in the story, you would easily forget them. If it had a nice happy ending with typical kind of characters, you're gonna forget that easily. So like we were master storytellers, before that, because we've had to carry these stories for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite Inuit monsters is this creature made out of animated corpses. So it kills you, and then you become part of it, and then it consumes other children. Like, these are stories for children. Like, these are fucked. Like, Brothers Grimm had nothing on like scaring children the way the Inuit do. So proud. Okay, so moving on. Anyone else? Any other thoughts on that topic? Okay, off to a good start.
To piggyback off what Jessie said, we were funny first.
Yeah, it's true. Always funny. Yeah. So I guess we don't need to send any thank you cards to the colonizers, do we, for our brilliant senses of humor? I don't think so. Okay, so there seems to be, I've gotten to glimpse at least parts of all of your projects. They're all phenomenal. There seems to be a range, from what I can tell, of direct personal experience in your projects. Acting Good, Jessie, is what I'm thinking of for you. Tales from the Res, Trevor, and of course, Hey Victor. Cody, you're literally playing a version of yourself. So common advice that I've gotten as a filmmaker or an aspiring filmmaker is like, when I'm pitching a story, I have to explain why it needs to be told by me, and you have to make yourself indispensable to the story. So when you're creating your stories or being in the writer's room for them, Jessie, as you were for Acting Good, do you strategically factor yourself into the story more as a business perspective, Cody or Trevor, or just creatively, Jessie? Or do you have any other experience or like perspective on that? And do you have a limit of how much of yourself you'll invest in a story?
Yeah, I mean, I can start if you guys don't mind. As a filmmaker, like I don't think I'm funny, and I create dark content. My first feature is a story about opiate addictions, but within it, there are moments that do have the real lived experience, and it's almost like they go hand in hand. Like, in order to, I don't know how to explain it. In Brother I Cry, there's moments where you can't help but find something funny, and you might not mean for it to come off funny, but people relate to it, and I think that's why it becomes funny. But then something like Acting Good and being a part of the room of Acting Good. So I was fortunate enough to be in the development, in the first season, second season, third season. In the first and second season, I was in the writer's room for the entire 8 weeks. So I got to help develop the whole season, break the season. And there's definitely parts of me that are in that. And it's interesting you say, like, when do you keep some of those things for yourself? Because one of my babies is called Bingo Nights, and it's a story about four old women who rob a bingo. And so we were pitching stuff in the room, and I pitched a bingo episode, and it ended up getting like it broke, but so many things I had to also be careful not to give away, but also at the same time, your job is to contribute to that show. So now I have to come up with some other stuff, but you're in a room with other other artists who you just like get to riff off of, and like, you know, somebody says something funny and you keep going. And when you're in a room full of Indigenous people doing that, like sometimes we don't even get our work done, but but you have all these amazing ideas. But yeah, that was a great experience, and there's lots of myself in that, along with everybody else in that room. And you tend to go off on stories like, this is what happened to me and this is how it happened, and then you take a version of that and you put it into the script. So I think that's something that's pretty magical to see. But then there's times when you might be in a room and you're not necessarily a writer or creative. You might just be an assistant, or you're sitting there listening, and you might have a really great idea and you want to pitch it, and they end up keeping it. And it's like, oh shit, that's my IP that is now part of the show, right? So there's times when you sit and listen, times to pitch. Yeah, but a lot of my stuff is dark. Like Cody was talking about this funeral. I have a short film coming out that is just that. It's my experience of dressing my cousin after she overdosed. And it was actually quite humorous because that's who she was as a person. And so the writing reflected that experience, even though it's super dark and sad. There's just so many moments that you can't help but laugh. So hopefully I hope I answered the question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's great to hear it from that writer's perspective, especially on a project that you didn't necessarily create or like spearhead the production of. But just, yeah, it's interesting to hear that you can insert truth. You can insert your truth into the story without it necessarily being like purely historically accurate, the way that it was like every detail was lived by you, but you are in there. Your DNA is in there. Thank you. I'm going to save Cody for last, maybe, because you're the most obvious example of this. But Trevor, do you have any experience with that? Like, you know, do you have a limit to how much you'll say, this is why it's by and about me, or like putting yourself in the story?
For context for Tales from the Res, like these are all ghost stories that I heard growing up, you know, surrounded by my uncles and aunts. My grandpa was a great storyteller, even though he was like a really stoic Indian cowboy. He always had a lot of stories and a lot of humor. And so, you know, like I grew up on shows like Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Tales from the Crypt, like the kind of anthology 90s horror. And I was would hear these stories in my community, but also see what was on TV, and one day wanted to like merge those two. I saw like such a great opportunity to make something like that. And so I think also growing up in Sixagat, like I was always like, I grew up in a family full of cowboys on a ranch, and the whole reserve is kind of like that. Everyone is either like a rancher or a hockey player. And I was neither of those people. And so I was always knew I wanted to tell stories, and I was a sensitive youth. So I was always like kind of feeling everything and interpreting everything. And so I grew up around a colorful cast of characters. And yeah, so like when it came time to write Tales from the Res, like all these different characters are people from my community, and just borrow in different stories. And a lot of times these ghost stories are just like, you know, there's something scary that happened, and then you have to build out all this like exposition characters. And so like I always kind of position myself as a storyteller from my community who's telling stories from my community. But you know, I think what makes it universal is like all these you know, like I think Indigenous people, you know, I don't know, across Turtle Island are superstitious, spiritual. You know, we all have, you know, little people or goat men or goat lady. There might be a goat man on this call right now. Cody Lightning.
That was my favorite episode, Trevor.
Yeah, I wrote that one, but I didn't direct it. I can't take the credit for directing it. That was my producer,
Right.
But yeah, he did a great job in that one. But yeah, so I think like these stories that kind of came from my community, we did an extensive process of protocols and making sure that we can tell these stories. And so like we weren't we took a lot of caution in terms of that. So but I can get into that a bit later.
Thank you very much. Okay, Cody, is there a level of personal investment in a story that you're unwilling to cross? Or are you like, nope, I feel like you're a dive in all kind of guy, correct me if I'm wrong, Yeah, was this business advice or creative advice, or take it from there?
No. I'm a wild ass person. My friends and my family know me who I am. I'm the first one to get buck naked at a party, act a goddamn fool. All comedy is shining light on darkness. A lot of comedy comes from tragic shit, dark stuff. And so to be able to shine a light on that and have people with that wit to collaborate with, it'll the first thing when something bad or nasty or dark happens in my life, the first thing my brain goes to it is, where's the joke? Where's the joke? That's me. Not for everyone, but that's me. So yeah, with my project, Hey Victor, it was all me. There's stuff in there that is fictionalized, but then there's stuff that's actually real that happened. Uh, and yeah, I put myself out there like that. I have no shame. You grow up in life too, being you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself for your actions, all the shame. I'm not ashamed of shit. I'm not ashamed of anything. Guilt and shame are two different things. If you do something bad, you feel guilty for it, but to be shamed, nah. So when I live, the things I do, the projects I want to make, they're shameless. Yeah, and it all comes from not just self, but others too. Like I know through the kids that I've worked with, the people I've had come in and out of my life, I adapt and I absorb that energy, and I know what they're going through. I could feel it. I could see it. All my senses are involved in it, and I can do my best to like recreate that. Right. And the darkest, craziest comedy comes from reality. So it is like, if you look at Richard Pryor or like Chris Farley, all these greats, they were very vulgar and very like out there, and now it would be canceled, right? That type of shit. But they're very honest. Comedy comes from honesty and like not holding back. So for me in my project of Hey Victor, and then I just wrote another one. Hopefully we get funding for that. It's a Indigenous hockey film, and if you've ever been in a hockey locker room as a teenager, as a kid, as a coach, as an adult, beer league, whatever, you hear shit, you smell stuff. It's gross, it's nasty, it's vulgar, it's all of it. But yeah, comedy comes from dark honesty. That's my thing. And so I exposed myself. I exposed myself. I went full frontal uncle. And like, some people, like my mom, when she read the script for the first time, she was like, holy shit, I was like, yeah. And she's like, damn. And when she watched the movie for the first time, because I kept it from everyone while we were editing and all that stuff. And then when I showed her, she was crying, and I was like, shit, here we go. And she was like, you're so fucking brave. She's like, what you just did is incredibly brave. And I could never, I don't even think I could do that. And I'm like, but she knows me as me. I'm a wild ass, right? And she's like, that was so brave. Like the casting director that I initially wanted to be involved in my film said no. And I've known this person since I was a little boy, said no. When I went to this person, I said, hey, I have a script. Will you help me cast this? Oh, yes. Oh, my God, Cody, it's about time. Like, you're making your first film. It's a comedy. Hell yeah. Read the script. About 2 hours later, I get a phone call. I was like, damn, that was quick. Hey, what's up? Are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, why? Well, so you're going to be like doing drugs and drinking and net nudity and all. I'm like, yeah, why? I don't know if I'm comfortable doing that. And I was like, what? Like, I don't know, man. You have to do what you have to do for the laugh. And it's not like Fat Man falling down on a table type thing. But the way I am, I'm constantly finding some type of joke and like shit, especially within myself. Even when I'm going through the gnarliest of times, I'm still like, and I keep it to myself. I write it down and I put it in the project.
Well, thank goodness you do. Yeah, thank goodness all three of you seem to have been, it seems like you've all been taking lots of notes your whole life, all of your lives. So, and thank goodness, because now we have the stories. Trevor, I really connected to him, like, oh, my fellow little millennial Goosebumps watcher. Like, yeah, that was Tales from the Crypt. Like, yeah, those were the shows that I grew up on too. Like, yeah, I see how your brain works. This is going a little off topic, but in terms of acting, just because we're talking about this, obviously you're a very strong comedic actor, Cody. And Trevor and Jessie, I don't know if you are actors as well. I don't. Jessie, you are. Jessie, you are. Okay. Would you agree then that I'm an actor, and I personally feel like it takes a lot more vulnerability and courage to do good comedy acting than it is to be dramatic? I think a lot of people think like drama is harder, but I kind of think like really good comedy is a lot harder. And Cody, like you said, it requires a lot more courage and bravery to do that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or do you feel like I don't know, Indigenous people are better at comedy for those reasons?
Of course we are. But anger is the easiest thing to play. Being angry is the easiest fucking thing to do. Anyone can yell, scream, you got the jaw clenched, fucking mad, punch. That's the easiest thing to do. But to be funny, to be genuinely funny where it's not forced, that comes from nature. That comes from in here. So delivery, when you're working with comedy stuff, especially with script work and film work, allowing your actors to really play, not just like this is the joke we wrote, do it as is. It won't hit. 9 times out of 10 it won't hit. You have to allow your actors and other players to play, and that's where you get those moments. So like with my project with Hey Victor, there was so much improv. We played into every scene. We joked around and played for about 15-20 seconds, and then it was action. We did the scene, and then it was like where we're supposed to cut, we played out. So we played in, did it, played out. And that the play-ins and play-outs, that's where those gold moments happen. And we were able to use it. It's not for every project, because we the mockumentary style that I filmed in, it's not like, it'd be a lot harder to do that if you're doing like your wide, your pan, your close-up, your over the shoulder, the mid. You have to match things for continuity. But the way I shot with 2 cameras going at once, we had a lot more room to play around in that way. And yeah, what you're saying with being vulnerable, yeah, you you got to put all the cards on the table. You got to put all the cards on the table, and it depends on the director, the writing, like what it's for. If it's for TV, if it's PG rated, like whatever it is, you have to be able to gauge like how far you can go, what they want, all that stuff. So
Jessie, do you feel like it's more like emotionally risky to do comedy acting than dramatic?
Absolutely. I mean, I can definitely yell, but I can be mean in a scene. No, I think because I got my start in theater, so I like improv. I love, and I think that's the other thing is having scene partners that you can play with, like being so open to saying yes to a lot of things and seeing where it takes you. And then I think like the character themselves they don't necessarily think they're funny either, right? So that's actually even more funny because they really believe in the thing that they're doing, and so it just plays nicely with whoever they're playing with. But I echo everything Cody's saying. Like I think it's also some people have it and some people don't, and you can really see it. But I guess that's in acting too, like the authenticity of sitting in that character and being honest, because I think that's what people will relate to, and yeah, I think it's hard. And I mean, I haven't had an opportunity to direct an episode of comedy yet, other than my own short films and whatnot. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. And and what it's going to be like and who I get to play with as well. So yeah.
Cool. I love. Oh, sorry, Trevor. Please go on.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Cody was saying about like the allowing the improv, like from a director's standpoint. Like in Tales from the Res, like it's two genres, a horror and a comedy. And horror sometimes it can seem like conflicting film languages. Like in horror, things are scarier and tight, and when you don't know what's on the other side of that door, what's down the hallway, what's around the corner, and so staying in that tight shot, benefits horror, but that's not always funny. And so like in terms of like the comedy aspects, like sometimes things are funnier in a wide, and having the characters improv off each other, it's easier to cut with when it's just a wide or a 2-shot. And their body language says a lot too, how they're able to riff off each other. So much of like language is body language, and I think that's especially comes through in comedy. That's why like stand-up comedy is also very like a visual thing, because of the way the comedians tell their story through their body language. And so it was really like fun in Tales from the Res to go back from horror to comedy in those two, like in the film languages, and build up suspense, and then for it to be a joke, or it to be fun and playful, and then next thing something scary happens. And so like it's really cool in the horror comedy genres to play with that.
I'd like to add too, like writing for the comedy and the actor. It's interesting. Cody was saying like you can write these jokes and then you go to perform them, and this is like you thought it was funny at the time, but then it's like it's shit. But writing, like once your characters are established, like after the first season of Acting Good, the characters, everything, the depth of them, the comedy, it just gets so much better, and you can write for those characters now. Their voice, you know what they would say, what they wouldn't say, or what's unexpected. And I think it makes it a little bit not easier, but it's a lot more, you get a lot more out of it. I think you can go in different places, and I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe it does become a little easier to write for the characters because they know how to turn it into themselves, and they can take the joke, they can see the joke on the page and figure out how to lift it off the page, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, at that point, you're really collaborating with the performers on the show, and you're taking them into the writing. They're like influencing the writer's room. I'm really struck by all three of you. I don't think you get to where the three of you are in your careers without being incredibly driven and ambitious. So I'm pleasantly surprised to hear how much you're all talking about like playing and like improvising, because I feel like I'm producing something now, and I feel like I like have a death grip on the project. I'm like a freak, like a control freak. Like I need to get it done and done right. But you guys seem cool and having fun. Do you feel like is that just comes from experience and you're so good at what you do that you can sort of relax into it now? Or do you think that makes the project better, playing, like having a sense of adventure and seeing what happens with the actors, with the writing, etc.?
I think that like filmmaking, it all of it is a process, right? When you're writing, it's a process. When you're in production, it's a process. When you're in post-production, and it's allowing all of it to like evolve and letting the story evolve as it goes on through all these stages. If you're writing and you're thinking about directing, you're not going to do justice to that role. And so it's just like being open to the change throughout and the collaboration. Like when does my role end and someone else's begins? Like the more you can just give up that control and just like allow collaboration, the better it is. Like the DP, that's his job to worry about the lenses or the lighting or the movement and stuff like that. And the actors, they've come prepared with all of their work to bring that character to life. And so like I think this pursuit of perfection isn't really real, not just like in filmmaking but in life. You'll never really get there. And so just enjoy the process, enjoy the ride. It's a really fun thing we get to do. That's the way I like to approach it. There was a time where I used to be really stressed out about everything, and I wouldn't even enjoy making the film, and so when I kind of learned to let go, now I feel like I'm having fun doing it.
Can I jump in on that? Because I agree. Like I'm working on producing my next feature film, which is a rom-com written and directed by Roxanne Whitebean. And I sometimes wonder, and even in a Corinthia series, my laid backness of getting things done, or the process, some would think I'm not, I guess, as stressed out enough for it, or I'm not on it enough. But at the same time, it's like, no, I trust in the story's journey and I trust in the process. So that's something I've had to, sit with. And yeah, it's a practice. It's a bit of a practice. But I think that when that happens, magic comes in, because there might be something you're so fixated on and it has to be this way and it has to be this way. For instance, in my feature film, my first time directing, we were doing a jail scene where they're talking through the window, like they're having a visit and they're talking through the window. And by time we got to that scene, and like we had no money, we had no time, like most indie features. And so the set wasn't finished. It was not finished being painted. We only had one side of it done. So we had to really think outside of the box, right? And instead of, sure, I had a moment of stress, but it allowed us to become really creative and artsy, and we did a French reverse, and it's really beautiful. But you kind of have to go through those experiences so that the next time a problem shows up, that you don't react in a way that's like, oh my God, the world is ending. You're able to say, okay, sometimes, where's the joke in this? Like, I like to think of that. Where's the joke? You gotta be kidding me. And then you dissect it and say, okay, how can I problem solve this? Because having that tight grip on it isn't going to get you where you need to be, and allowing that energy to come in to guide you, I really think is it becomes really magical. That's all. And a great experience, and you're not having a heart attack. So
I guess I'll hop on now. First and foremost, I'm upset because the last Hooters in the Western Hemisphere of fucking Canada shut down the other day. So there's no more Hooters over here. The last Hooters I went to was in Toronto.
Yeah.
Every time I ever go to Imagine Native, TIFF, anything, Hooters is the go-to. My homie just relayed that info to me, so I'm upset.
That's tragic. I love it.
Now you got to go to Niagara Falls.
But Trevor and Jessie said, the trust factor is so huge. For me, jumping from just being an actor for over 30 years to writing and directing, I was so nervous. I had so much anxiety, because it's like, I hope that everyone does their job and does it well. And it's like, I've seen production shut down. I've been a part of things that have completed the filming process and then fold in post-production. And I was like, oh God, like, I'm the captain of the ship. Like, oh no, like, hopefully everyone does their job. And you have to have that trust. And it sucks because sometimes people might let you down. Sometimes people will bail from you. Sometimes people blow smoke up your ass. You don't know. And sometimes people fake it till they make it type thing. But that trust factor is so huge, so huge. And I feel like with comedy, aside from like any other genre, when you know you're coming into something that's supposed to be funny, I feel like there's not less pressure, so to say, but like there's we don't have to be so serious. Yeah, we have to be serious about the work. Yeah, we are working. It's a job, all the shit. We have to make this thing work, but we could laugh. It's a different. I've been a part of dramas. I've been a part of like crazy thrillers. The vibe on set is completely different than when you're on a comedy. Everyone, I feel, enjoys himself a little bit more. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, the trust factor that both Jessie and Trevor said, that's key, is trust.
Completely agree. It's crucial. It's the only way things will get done. All right. So I want to talk a bit of business here, because I'm sure there are a lot of emerging or mid-professional aspiring filmmakers in our midst. What were the biggest obstacles you came across in bringing your ideas to the screen? Be they financial, creative, collaborative? Take it from there. I'll start with Trevor.
Yeah, like Tales from the Res, like it was a long journey, like 5 years, I think. Like we pitched with Jessie Anthony at the Imaginative at the pitch competition, and we pitched and we had a lot of great feedback. We unfortunately lost to Jessie and her team and her great idea, but we had a lot of great feedback from everyone in the audience, and we just kind of kept at it through the pandemic and wrote all the pandemic, all the drafts. Probably went to like 8-9 drafts of all 6 episodes of Tales from the Res. And so just kind of keeping to it. Don't give up on your idea. Sometimes you feel like everyone's telling you it's a great idea and you feel like it's going nowhere, like that can feel like a thing where it's like, oh man, this is never going to get made. But you kind of have to have this like blind belief in your idea and your abilities, and you're the person to do it. Just kind of keep at it. And I think when we did this, when we were writing Tales from the Res, we got support from the ISO to do this like protocols process where I asked all these elders in my community, like, can we tell stories about, the Soita beaks, like the water spirits, or all these different things? Can we film here or there? I did ask all these questions, and I remember this one elder after this long chat, he just told me, don't let anybody tell you you can't tell 6 guest stories, because they belong to you just as much as they belong to anyone else. And it just gave me it emboldened me and gave me so much belief in myself and made me feel like I wasn't an imposter even in my own community, like I'm not appropriating my own culture. Like it just settled down all those ideas about myself. So I think for anyone out there, just believe that you are the right storyteller to tell that story. If it's coming from your heart, if it's coming from a good place. And so I think just that belief in yourself is so, so important, and never lose it. You have so many people telling you this or that, but just never lose that belief in yourself.
I teared up a bit hearing that, Trevor. Thank you. What was I even asking you? I was so moved by that. What were the biggest obstacles you came across? Financial, creative, collaborative? Jessie.
Yeah, I'd have to say, well, Tales from the Res was like super cool. I was so happy to see it get made, because I did see these guys pitch and they gave a great pitch, and I knew Colin had been talking about it for a while. So I just have to say it was really nice to see it up on AP10 Lumi. But also I was the one dealing with all the casting or the agencies for that show. So it was nice to kind of be a part of that project in some tiny way. But yeah, obstacles for funding, I would have to say, like, I was very fortunate to be in university and get my first talent to watch for my feature film. So, a lot of that obstacle was just learning what was I trying to say and believing in myself. Some of the feedback was, this is an Indigenous story. And I was like, why? Because it doesn't have beads and feathers in it? No, it's Indigenous because I wrote it, no, this is what it is. And having that belief in myself, I think that's what kind of pushed it through. And so I was super fortunate to have that. I hadn't done anything other than school projects, and wham, I'm in a feature film. So that was really cool. But we shot that with 150,000 in I don't know how many days. I can't even remember how many days anymore, like 18. So I have no idea how we made that movie. But I'd say moving forward, working as a producer, a lot of it comes down to track record. It comes down to getting funding based on what have you already done. So when you're in that space of you don't have enough of a track record, so therefore you can't go forward, but you're trying to go forward to get the track record, and then being very careful to not have to necessarily pair with non-Indigenous companies just to get your stuff made. And they have this. So I'm really thankful to the ISO and the CMF and all the changes that are being made in order to keep, IP and all of that stuff within Indigenous sovereignty, like storytelling and sovereignty. So I'd say that was probably some of the harder funding parts as a producer. But the ISO has been like such a creator sent, like they really, I think a lot of us have careers because of them. So I just give them such props and all the work that Jessie and Carrie and everybody at ISO has done. But I just got to echo everything Trevor's saying is true, because those are some of the things I ask myself when somebody asks me to come on a project. Am I the right person? Why now? How come me? Especially if it's not Haudenosaunee specific. I'm like, why do you not have a Cree storyteller? Why do you not have, somebody to tell this story that might better tell it. But I think that's it. When you can find something that you connect to it, you've asked all those questions, they've told you why they want you on the project, you've asked permission, followed the protocols. And if it's true and you're honest and it's from the heart, I think that's really where it comes from. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, you did. I remember feeling exactly like that. Like, I was like, I feel like I'm 16 years old again, applying for my first like part-time job, where like you need experience to get a job, but you can't get experience if you're not given, like when you're at that level, that emerging level in your career, it's like ISO, think creator, like you said.
Well, and I have one more thing to add to that too, is communication. Like, I know there's deadlines and not all the time can we make those deadlines, but having clear communication with the funders so that you are really nourishing those relationships and they know that those things are coming. I think that helps you for the next project that you are going to deliver. So there are some times I haven't delivered when I'm supposed to. However, having that communication, I hope, has helped for the next project. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So, creating that is beneficial too.
Yeah, that's a great note. I remember when I first realized, I'm like, oh, these funders are people. They're human beings that work there, and they're probably really nice. They're probably not paid enough if it's an arts organization for the work that they do. But they're in it because they love artists and art. And yeah, they're not. We get kind of scared of them. Like, I feel like they're like these all powerful like ATMs, but no, they're human beings. We just got to communicate with them.
I'm trying to sleep with all of them. And from what Jen went off of, where we might not be on time, it's called Indian time. If you don't understand what Indian time is, then you shouldn't fund me. Fuck off. I'll West you. Go, scram. Anyways, to kind of go off of what these two were saying, for Victor, it was tricky because when we were pitching this around to get funding, we were all one off of these checklists. I've been an actor for years, but I never directed. My co-writer Sam has published several books, New York Times top 10 fucking for novels, but never wrote a script. Joshua produced several plays, theater productions, but never a film. So we were all one off. So it was like, and then we have doors shut, different areas, and telephone was like, you guys got it. It was like, what? And then COVID happened, like all of our projects, COVID happened. And when I got that email saying you're approved for this funding, I fell to my knees. I was with my girlfriend at the time. We're not together anymore. And I started crying. I was like that scream cry where your jaws open and no noise is coming out. She's like, baby, are you okay? And I was like, we got our funding. We got our funding. And she's like, holy shit, are you serious? And I took a fat hit of LSD and listened to Dog Days Are Over on repeat for about 10 hours. And I was like, the dog days are over. The dog days are over. We got our funding. Yeah. But yeah, it a lot of shit stems back to the idea, the pitch, getting the funding, and then having good line producers and stuff like that are able to put the money where it belongs and nobody fucks up in that area. And then back to the previous question that we answered, it's the trust factor. Having the trust there that everyone's doing their shit. And yeah, then you're going to have your success.
I love that. Okay, lightning round. Last question before we go to Q&A. In one sentence, what advice would you give to an aspiring producer or an Indigenous filmmaker? Trevor.
Yeah. Man, you got to believe in yourself, believe in your idea. Work hard, respond to emails, please. Communication. Sorry, kind of put on the spot. That's all I have.
You rose to the occasion. Thank you very much. Jessie.
Hire me, please. No, I'm just kidding. It's the same thing. I think so. One of my life purposes moving forward from all of the things I've learned so far is talking about crew care and going on to set and productions and really talking about crew care and how producers can and emerging, and especially with emerging filmmakers, because there are a lot of emerging filmmakers who kind of fake it till they make it, you know, or will go ahead and do something not really knowing the ripple effect that it might have on your crew. And without your crew, like they, you know, they really run the show. They really can say, nope, I'm not putting that light up. Nope, I'm not turning the camera on. So for me, I would say really understanding how to take care of crew as an emerging filmmaker, and whether that be if you're a director, understanding maybe a little bit of what each department does, you know, understanding maybe the timeline of what that might be, understanding why your producer might say no. As a writer, you know, it's just kind of knowing all the bits and pieces. But that's why I'm always like, go ask a director if you can shadow them, ask a producer if you can shadow them, you know, see, because you're going to learn what to do and what not to do. So I would say really immerse yourself in that. And you know, there are programs where you don't have to do that for free anymore, that you can go and get paid to sit with a director. You know, I had the experience of being on The Handmaid's Tale and watching this like multi-million-dollar production, episodic in 5th season. So, you know, the actors are really running the show, and you know what that looks like. So, but it really just comes down to, I think, be open-minded, be kind. That's the other thing, like compassion and being kind to people, because you never know who's going to be your boss. Crew care and believe in yourself. That's a lot. But yeah, that's what I'm giving you.
I love that. Taking care of your team. That's pretty important, including yourself. Cody, one sentence. What would you say to an aspiring Indigenous filmmaker?
Get the fuck out. Go into the trades. Go work on the rigs. Be an electrician. Go work at Costco. I will say that I've said this before too, in like other interviews I've had. You have to have thick skin for this industry. You have to be resilient. We are, as Nihil people, we're already resilient, but you have to really, really show that and do that and live that. It's tough because there's times where jobs are not coming in. They're not coming in. So don't wait for the job to come. Create the job. The more well-rounded you are, the better. Because if I'm not acting on this film, I could grip for it, or I could drive transpo, or I could do craft. Like, as long as you're a part of the project, and this is just me. Some people may be like, I'm not fucking working crafty. I would. I'll get you a snack, whatever you need. I'll drive you there. You need coffee? I'll do it. I'm a slut for that type of stuff. I don't care. As long as you're a part of the whole thing, you're in. You're already in. And while you're there, you collaborate with others. If you look at the Trailer Park Boys, the role of Bubbles was like a PA or something. And then he just started like goofing around with the boys, and they're like, dude, you're on the show. Now he's like the thing. Like, if you're just there, and if you like, off of what Jessie and Trevor said, don't be a prick, don't be an asshole, don't be a bitch, and watch what you say, because you, like she said, like, you don't know who's your next boss or whose project you're going to be working on or whatever. That's very, very true. There might be people that you don't like that you're going to have to work with or work for. Tough tits. It's all good. Just be decent. And, you know, you have to wake up some mornings with anxiety of, when am I getting my next job? When is this going to pay off? And sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't sometimes. I've taken full leaps into this industry and bailed completely, like 4 or 5 different times. And that you feel like a failure. I felt like a failure quite often. Like I wasn't able to do it. And then something happens and something kicks in, and I'm able to get another part or be a part of something. I'm like, damn, dude, like, it's not letting me go. Like, I'm connected. All in all, the resiliency, and like to what Jessie said, just not take a no for an answer. You got to keep going, and don't be annoying. Don't be annoying. Don't piss people off. I've had buddies that are trying to get in, and they're like, hey, who's your agent? Who's your manager? Who's this? And I'm like, hey, easy, fella. I met you an hour ago. Relax. Don't be annoying. Like, just, you know, I don't know, come from your heart, just, and be in it because you love it. This isn't a money-making industry. It's just to be a part of this industry. We're already such a small percentage of the world. Being niche filmmakers, even smaller. The money-making niche filmmakers, even fucking smaller. Like, don't do this shit to make millions, because that shit won't happen. And if it fucking does, punch me in the goddamn face. I'm telling you, it's do this because you love it, because you want to create. And then also where I'm at as the captain of my ship with my projects, I get to help so many other people that want to come in and to not guide them like, you know, oh, this is what you do, but to like, you're a part of my project. So this is one more on your resume. This is one more on your resume. So we can all build. There's enough at the table for everyone. Don't be greedy. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a cunt. Don't be a goof. Be cool.
I like being a cunt sometimes, to be honest, but when appropriate. All right. Fantastic advice. Thank you so much. Okay. What is everyone's thoughts on the Native film scene in Canada these days? Who or what Indigenous films or filmmakers are you looking forward to? Trevor?
Yeah, it's really cool. I think like I remember the first time I went to Imagine Native in like I think it was like 2016. Like this happened, my eyes wide open to all these amazing filmmakers and films. And every time I go to Imagine Native, I always leave with like a best friend or all this inspiration from the films that I've watched. And that's what keeps me going. Like last year I watched, like Hey Victor and Fancy Dance, like the opening night and closing night film are both really great. And it shows, I think it's just cool to see your stories on like a high production level or on par with like other films that are in theaters. And it's, it's just, I wish we can see more of it. And I think what I've also noticed is like a lot of like Indigenous women are leading the way. Like Ellie Maya Tailfeathers, Dennis Goulet, Tasha Hubbard, Jessie Anthony. The list goes on and on. Marie Clements, Loretta Todd, of course, Emily Sabomswin. So it's an exciting time to be a filmmaker, especially in Canada, and it's cool that we're all doing it. There's just so many things to keep on top of, though. Like try to watch them all.
It's an embarrassment of riches, kind of. We could always do more. Jessie, any particular films, your Indigenous films you're looking forward to, or filmmakers you're excited to see what's coming from them?
Oh, there's tons. I mean, I have to shout out my buddy who's watching, Jay Cardinal Villeneuve, Mark Buffalo, and having that comedy out there. I'm excited to see that. I think that Snotty Nose Rezkiz, Vance Benzo, his writing. I'm excited. Amber Daniels, I have to give her props. She's the reason why I got in, I was able to be in acting good and start my, comedy writing career. She's amazing. Jennifer Podemsky, the work that she's been doing, she's such a support, and she's a badass woman. And like, I really love the work that she does. Hey Victor was great. I laughed my ass off. Yeah, there's so many, and it's so great to see, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see like Roxanne White be in this rom-com that we are, hopefully if we get our funding, is going to be out there. I would like to make more Haudenosaunee stories. I know there's lots of stories in North and West and everywhere, but like more Haudenosaunee. I mean, yeah, we have Beans, we have some really good ones too, but more in different genres, if you will. So there's so many. I'm excited. I'm really excited for it. I think that's a hard question for me to answer.
Well, I know there's so many. I'm excited for this rom-com. I'm looking forward to it, Jessie. Cody, what are you looking forward to? What Indigenous films or filmmakers?
I'm not looking forward to any films or filmmakers. I want Buffy St. Marie's next mixtape. That's what I want, baby. Orange, baby. I want to be painted orange. To be honest, I can't. Jessie just said like everyone. So it's like that, yeah. But here's the thing. It's not just about being Nietzsche and making a project. Make it good. And that might be tough. I might be a prick for saying this, but if it's not good, I don't care. If it is good, then fucking rad. And it might be through trial and error that you make something and it's like, shit, maybe I fucked up here or there. And then you realize your mistakes and you got to make it better here. Just make it for yourself. Any emerging artist, filmmaker, painter, fucking whatever, Sundance, I don't care. Just do it good, the best that you can. And I'll watch it and I'll support it. I can't, the list is too damn huge for me to pick fucking anyone like individually. I love Hispanic, Armenian. There's like so many like culturally indigenous. Indigenous is not just Nietzsche's; it's the whole world. But indigenous artists from around the world. I want all of us to come up. So I'm kind of looking forward to all of us coming up.
Beautiful. I love that attitude. All of us for all of us, right? Well, that is all the time we have. This hour has flown by for me. Miigwech, Nakramik, thank you so much for joining us. It's 8:01. We're all done. Thank you so much.
Oh, fuck, I thought it was Dylan, I thought it was on mute, dude.
All right, so please stick around, everyone. But thank you, everyone, for joining us into our live stream. Thank you, Real World. Thank you, Trevor, Cody, Jessie. That's all. I learned so much, and I'm looking forward to all of your projects. That's what I'm looking forward to next.
Yeah, looking forward to everyone's projects too. Thanks for having me.
Fans, Lightning stinks at onlycans.com.
Lightning at onlycans.com. Okay, cool.